The first scene discovers a wild wood. The attendant spirit descends or enters. Before the starry threshold of Jove's court my mansion is, where those immortal shapes of bright aerial spirits live ensphered, in regions mild of calm and serene air. Above the smoke and stir of this dim spot, which men call earth, and with low-thoughted care, confined and pestered in this pinfold here, strive to keep up a frail and feverish being, unmindful of the crown that virtue gives after this mortal change to her true servants, amongst the enthroned gods on sainted seats. Yet some there be that by due steps aspire to lay their just hands on that golden key that opes the palace of eternity. To such my errand is, and but for such I would not soil these pure ambrosial weeds with the rank vapors of this sin-worn mold. But to my task. Neptune, besides the sway of every salt flood and each ebbing stream, took in by lot, twixt high and nether Jove, imperial rule of all the sea-girt isles, that like to rich and various gems inlay the unadorned bosom of the deep, which he to grace his tributary gods, by course commits to several government, and gives them leave to wear their sapphire crowns and wield their little tridents. But this isle, the greatest and the best of all the main, he quarters to his blue-haired deities, and all this tract that fronts the falling sun, a noble peer of mickle trust and power, has in his charge, with tempered awe to his guide, an old and haughty nation proud in arms, where his fair offspring, nursed in princely lore, are coming to attend their father's state, and new trusted scepter. But their way lies through the perplexed paths of this drear wood, the nodding horror of whose shady brows threats the forlorn and wandering passenger, and here their tender age might suffer peril, but by quick command from sovereign Jove I was dispatched for their defense and guard. And listen why, for I will tell ye now, what never yet was heard in tale or song, from old or modern bard, in hall or bower. Bacchus, that first from out that the purple grape crushed the sweet poison of misused wine, after the Tuscan mariners transformed, coasting the Tyrrhene shore. As the winds listed on Circe's island fell, who knows not Circe, the daughter of the sun, whose charmed cup whoever tasted lost his upright shape and downward fell into a groveling swine. This nymph that gazed upon his clustering locks, with ivy berries wreathed, and his blithe youth, had by him, ere he parted thence, a son, much like his father, but his mother more, whom therefore she brought up and Comus named, who ripe and frolic of his full-grown age, roving the Celtic and Iberian fields, at last betakes him to this ominous wood, and in thick shelter of black shades embowered, excels his mother at her mighty art, offering to every weary traveler his orient liquor in a crystal glass to quench the drouth of Phoebus. Which as they taste, for most do taste, through fond intemperate thirst, soon as the potion works their human countenance, the express resemblance of the gods, is changed into some brutish form of wolf or bear, or ounce, or tiger, hog, or bearded goat, all other parts remaining as they were, and they, so perfect is their misery, not once perceive their foul disfigurement, and boast themselves more comely than before, and all their friends and native home forget, to roll with pleasure in a sensual sty. Therefore, when any favourite of high Jove chances to pass through this adventurous glade, swift as the sparkle of a glancing star, I shoot from heaven to give him safe convoy, as now I do. But first, I must put off these my sky robes, spun out of iris woof, and take the weeds and likeness of a swain that to the service of this house belongs, who with his soft pipe and smooth dittied song well knows to still the wild winds when they roar, and hush the waving woods, nor of lesser faith, and in this office of his mountain watch, likeliest and nearest to the present aid of this occasion. But I hear the tread of hateful steps. I must be viewless now. Comus enters with a charming rod in one hand, his glass in the other, with him a rout of monsters headed like sundry sorts of wild beasts, but otherwise like men and women, their apparel glistering. They come in, making a riotous and unruly noise, with torches in their hands. The star that bids the shepherds fold, now the top of heaven doth hold, and the gilded car of day his glowing axle doth allay. In the steep Atlantic stream and the slope, his upward beam shoots against the dusky pole, pacing towards the other goal. Of his chamber in the east, meanwhile welcome joy and feast, midnight shout and revelry, tipsy dance and jollity, braid your locks with rosy twine, dropping odors, dropping wine. Rigor now is gone to bed, and advice with scrupulous head, strict age and sour severity, with their grave saws in slumber lie. We that are of purer fire imitate the starry choir, who in their nightly watchful spheres lead in swift round the months and years, the sounds and seas with all their finny drove. Now to the moon in wavering Morris move, and on the tawny sands and shelves trip the pert fairies and the dapper elves by dimpled brook and fountain brim. The wood nymphs decked with daisies trim their merry wakes and pastimes keep. What hath night to do with sleep? Night hath better sweets to prove. Venus now wakes and wakens love. Come, let us our rites begin. 'Tis only daylight that makes sin, which these dun shades will ne'er report. Hail, goddess of nocturnal sport, dark-veiled Coito, to whom the secret flame of midnight torches burn, mysterious dame, that ne'er art called, but when the dragon womb of Stygian darkness spets her thickest gloom, and makes one blot of all the air, stay thy cloudy ebon chair, wherein thou ridst with Hecate, and befriend us, thy vowed priest, till utmost end of all thy dues be done and none left out, ere the blabbing eastern scout, the nice morn on the Indian steep, from her cabined loophole peep, and to the telltale sun descry our concealed solemnity. Come, knit hands and beat the ground in a light fantastic round. Break off, break off. I feel the different pace of some chaste footing near about this ground. Run to your shrouds. Within these brakes and trees our number may affright some virgin sure, for so I can distinguish by mine art. Benighted in these woods, now to my charms, and to my wily trains, I shall ere long be well stocked with as fair a herd as grazed about my mother Circe, till I hurl my dazzling spells into the spongy air of power to cheat the eye with blear illusion, and give it false presentments, lest the pace and my quaint habits breed astonishment, and put the damsel to suspicious flight, which must not be, for that's against my course. I, under fair pretense of friendly ends, and well-placed words of glozing courtesy, baited with reasons not unplausible, wind me into the easy-hearted man, and hug him into snares, when once her eye hath met the virtue of this magic dust, I shall appear some harmless villager, whom thrift keeps up about his country gear. But here she comes. I fairly step aside, and hearken, if I may, her business here. The lady enters. This way the noise was, if my ear be true, my best guide now. Methought it was the sound of riot and ill-managed merriment, such as the jocund flute or gamesome pipe stirs up among the loose unlettered hinds, when for their teeming flocks and granges full in wanton dance they praise the bounteous Pan, and thank the gods amiss. I should be loath to meet the rudeness and swilled insolence of such late waysailers. Yet, oh, where else shall I inform my unacquainted feet in the blind mazes of this tangled wood? My brothers, when they saw me wearied out with this long way, resolving here to lodge under the spreading favor of these pines, stepped, as they said, to the next thicket side, to bring me berries or such cooling fruit as the kind hospitable woods provide. They left me then, when the gray-hooded even, like a sad votarist in Palmer's weed, rose from the hindmost wheels of Phoebus' wain. But where they are, and why they came not back, is now the labor of my thoughts. 'Tis likeliest they had engaged their wandering steps too far, and envious darkness, ere they could return, had stole them from me. Else, O thievish night, why shouldst thou, but for some felonious end, in thy dark lantern thus close up the stars that nature hung in heaven, and filled their lamps with everlasting oil to give due light to the misled and lonely traveler. This is the place, as well I may guess, whence even now the tumult of loud mirth was rife and perfect in my listening ear, yet naught but single darkness do I find. What might this be? 1,000 fantasies begin to throng into my memory, of calling shapes and beckoning shadows dire, and airy tongues that syllable men's names on sands and shores and desert wildernesses. These thoughts may startle well, but not astound the virtuous mind that ever walks, attended by a strong, sighting champion conscience. O welcome, pure-eyed faith, white-handed hope, thou hovering angel, girt with golden wings, and thou unblemished form of chastity. I see thee visibly, and now believe that he, the supreme good, to whom all things ill are but as slavish officers of vengeance, would send a glistering guardian, if need were, to keep my life and honored unassailed. Was I deceived, or did a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night? I did not err. There does a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night, and casts a gleam over this tufted grove. I cannot hallo to my brothers, but such noise as I can make to be heard farthest, I'll venture. For my new enlivened spirits prompt me, and they perhaps are not far off. Sweet echo, sweetest nymph, that liv'st unseen within thy airy shell, by slow meanders margin green, and in the violet embroidered vale, where the lovelorn nightingale nightly to thee her sad song mourneth well, Canst thou not tell me of a gentle pair that likest thy Narcissus are? Oh, if thou have hid them in some flowery cave, tell me but where. Sweet queen of parley, daughter of the sphere, so mayest thou be translated to the skies, and give resounding grace to all heavens harmonize. Can any mortal mixture of earth's mold breathe such divine enchanting ravishment? Sure, something holy lodges in that breast, and with these raptures moves the vocal air to testify his hidden residence. How sweetly did they float upon the wings of silence, through the empty vaulted night, at every fall smoothing the raven down of darkness till it smiled. I have oft heard my mother Circe, with the sirens three, amidst the flowery kirtled Naiades, culling their potent herbs and baleful drugs, who as they sung would take the prisoned soul and lap it in Elysium, silhouette, and chide her barking waves into attention, and fell Charybdis murmured soft applause. Yet they in pleasing slumber lulled the sense, and in sweet madness robbed it of itself. But such a sacred and home-felt delight, such sober certainty of waking bliss, I never heard till now. I'll speak to her, and she shall be my queen. Hail, foreign wonder, whom certain these rough shades did never breed, unless the goddess that in rural shrine dwell'st here with Pan or Sylvan by blessed song, forbidding every bleak unkindly fog to touch the prosperous growth of this tall wood. Nay, gentle shepherd, ill is lost that praise that is addressed to unattending ears. Not any boast of skill, but extreme shift, how to regain my severed company, compelled me to awake the courteous echo, to give me answer from her mossy couch. What chance, good lady, hath bereft you thus? Dim darkness, and this heavy labyrinth. Could that divide you from near ushering guides? They left me weary on a grassy turf. By falsehood, or discourtesy, or why? To seek i' the valley some cool friendly spring, and left your fair side all unguarded, lady. They were but twain, and purposed quick return. Perhaps forestalling night prevented them. How easy my misfortune is to hit! Imports their loss beside the present need. No less than if I should my brothers lose, were they of manly prime or youthful bloom, as smooth as Hebe's their unrazored lips. Two such I saw, what time the labored ox in his loose traces from the furrow came, and the swinked hedger at his supper sat. I saw them under a green mantling vine that crawls along the side of yon small hill, plucking ripe clusters from the tender shoots. Their port was more than human as they stood. I took it for a fairy vision of some gay creatures of the element that in the colors of the rainbow live and play the plighted clouds. I was awestruck, and as I passed, I worshipped. If those you seek, it were a journey like the path of heaven to help you find them. Gentle villager, what readiest way would bring me to that place? Due west, it rises from this shrubby point. To find out that, good shepherd, I suppose, in such a scant allowance of starlight, would overtask the best land pilot's art, without the sure guess of well-practiced feet. I know each lane, and every alley green, dingle or bushy dell of this wild wood, and every bosky bourne from side to side, my daily walks in ancient neighborhood. And if your stray attendants be yet lodged, or shroud within these limits, I shall know ere marrow wake, or the low-roosted lark from her thatched pallet rouse, if otherwise I can conduct you, lady, to a low but loyal cottage, where you may be safe, till further quest. Shepherd, I take thy word, and trust thy honest offered courtesy, which oft is sooner found in lowly sheds, with smoky rafters, than in tapestried halls and courts of princes, where it first was named, and yet is most pretended. In a place less warranted than this, or less secure, I cannot be, that I should fear to change it. I me blessed Providence, and square my trial to my proportioned strength. Shepherd, lead on. The two brothers. Unmuffle ye faint stars, and thou fair moon that wants to love the traveller's benison. Stoop thy pale visage through an amber cloud, and disinherit chaos that reigns here, in double night of darkness and of shades. Or if your influence be quite dammed up with black usurping mists, some gentle taper, though a rush candle from the wicker hole of some clay habitation, visit us with thy long leveled rule of streaming light, and thou shalt be our star of Arcady, or Tyrian cynosure. Or if our eyes be barred that happiness, might we but hear the unfolded flocks penned in their wattled coats, or sound of pastoral reed with oaten stops, or whistle from the lodge or village cock, count the night watches to his feathery dames, 'twould be some solace yet, some little cheering in this close dungeon of numerous boughs. But oh, that hapless virgin, our lost sister, where may she wander now? Whether betake her from the chill dew amongst rude burrs and thistles? Perhaps some cold bank is her bolster now, or 'gainst the rugged bark of some broad elm leans her unpillowed head, fraught with sad fears. What if in wild amazement and affright, or while we speak within the direful grasp of savage hunger or of savage heat? Peace, brother. Be not over exquisite to cast the fashion of uncertain evils. For grant they be so, while they rest unknown, what need a man forestall his date of grief, and run to meet what he would most avoid? Or if they be but false alarms of fear, how bitter is such self-delusion! I do not think, my sister, so to seek, or so unprincipled in virtue's book, and the sweet peace that goodness bosoms ever, as that the single want of light and noise, not being in danger, as I trust she is not, could stir the constant mood of her calm thoughts, and put them into misbecoming plight. Virtue could see to do what virtue would by her own radiant light. Though sun and moon were in the flat sea sunk, and wisdom's self oft seeks to sweet retired solitude, where with her best nurse contemplation she plumes her feathers and lets grow her wings, that in the various bustle of resort were all too ruffled and sometimes impaired, he that has light within his own clear breast may sit in the center and enjoy bright day. But he that hides a dark soul and foul thoughts, benighted, walks under the midday sun. Himself is his own dungeon. 'Tis most true that musing meditation most affects the pensive secrecy of desert cell, far from the cheerful haunt of men and herds, and sits as safe as in a senate house. For who would rob a hermit of his weeds, his few books, or his beads, or maple dish, or do his gray hairs any violence? But beauty, like the fair Hesperian tree, laden with blooming gold, had need the guard of dragon watch with unenchanted eye, to save her blossoms and defend her fruit from the rash hand of bold incontinence. You may as well spread out the unsunned heaps of misers' treasure by an outlaw's den, and tell me it is safe. As bid me hope danger will wink on opportunity, and let a single helpless maiden pass, uninjured in this wild surrounding waste. Of night or loneliness it recks me not. I fear the dread events that dog them both, lest some ill-greeting touch attempt the person of our unowned sister. I do not, brother, infer as if I thought my sister's state secure without all doubt or controversy. Yet, where an equal poise of hope and fear does arbitrate the event, my nature is that I incline to hope rather than fear, and gladly banish squint suspicion. My sister is not so defenseless left as you imagine. She has a hidden strength, which you remember not. What hidden strength? Unless the strength of heaven, if you mean that. I mean that too, but yet a hidden strength, which if heaven gave it, may be termed her own. 'Tis chastity, brother, chastity. She that has that is clad in complete steel, and like a quivered nymph with arrows keen, may trace huge forests and unharbored heaths, infamous hills, and shady perilous and sandy perilous wilds, where through the sacred rays of chastity no savage fierce bandit or mountaineer will dare to soil her virgin purity. Yea, there where very desolation dwells by grots and caverns shagged with horrid shades, she may pass on with unblenched majesty. Be it not done in pride or in presumption, some say, no evil thing that walks by night in fog or fire, or by lake or moorish fen, blue meager hag, or stubborn unlaid ghost that breaks his magic chains at curfew time, no goblin or swart fairy of the mine hath hurtful power or true virginity. Do you believe me yet, or shall I call antiquity from the old schools of Greece to testify the arms of chastity? Hence had the huntress Dian her dread bow, fair silver-shafted queen forever chased, wherewith she tamed the brinded lioness, and spotted mountain pard, but set at naught the frivolous bolt of Cupid. Gods and men feared her stern frown, and she was the queen of the woods. What was that snaky-headed Gorgon shield that wise Minerva wore, unconquered virgin, wherewith she freezed her foes to congealed stone? But rigid looks of chaste austerity and noble grace that dashed brute violence with sudden adoration and blank awe. So dear to heaven is saintly chastity, that when a soul is found sincerely so, 1,000 liveried angels lackey her, driving far off each thing of sin and guilt, and in clear dream and solemn vision tell her of things that no gross ear can hear, till oft converse with heavenly habitants. Begin to cast a beam on the outward shape, the unpolluted temple of the mind, and turns it by degrees to the soul's essence. till all be made immortal. But when lust, by unchaste looks, loose gestures, and foul talk, but most by lewd and lavish act of sin, lets in defilement to the inward parts, the soul grows clotted by contagion, embodies and imbrutes, till she quite loose the divine property of her first being. Such are those thick and gloomy shadows damp, oft seen in charnel vaults and sepulchres, lingering and sitting by a new-made grave, as loath to leave the body that it loved, and linked itself by carnal sensuality to a degenerate and degraded state. How charming is divine philosophy, not harsh and crabbed as dull fools suppose, but musical as is Apollo's lute, and a perpetual feast of nectared sweets, where no crude surfeit reigns. List, list! I hear some far-off hollow breaks the silent air. Methought so too. What should it be? For certain, either someone like us, night-foundered here, or else some neighbor woodman, or at worst, some roving robber calling to his fellows. Heaven keep my sister! Again, again, and near. Best draw and stand upon our guard. I'll hallo. If he be friendly, he comes well. If not, defense is a good cause, and heaven be for us. The attended spirit habited like a shepherd. That hollow I should know. Who are you? Speak. Come not too near. You fall on iron stakes else. What voice is that, my young lord? Speak again. O brother, 'tis my father's shepherd, sure. Thyrsis, whose artful strains have oft delayed the huddling brook to hear his madrigal, and sweetened every musk-rose of the dale. How camest thou here, good swain? Hath any ram slipped from the fold, or young kid lost his dam, or straggling wether the pent flock forsook? How couldst thou find this dark sequestered nook? O my loved master's heir, and his next joy, I came not here on such a trivial toy as a strayed ewe, or to pursue the stealth of pilfering wolf. Not all the fleecy wealth that doth enrich these downs is worth a thought to this my errand, and the care it brought. But O my virgin lady, where is she? How chance she is not in your company? To tell thee sadly, shepherd, without blame of or our neglect, we lost her as we came. Ay, me unhappy, then my fears are true. What fears, good Thyrsis? Prithee briefly show. I'll tell ye, 'tis not vain or fabulous, though so esteemed by shallow ignorance, what the sage poets, taught by the heavenly muse, storied of old in high immortal verse, of dire chimeras and enchanted isles, and rifted rocks whose entrance leads to hell. For such there be, but belief is blind, but unbelief is blind. Within the navel of this hideous wood, immured in cypress shades, a sorcerer dwells, of Bacchus and of Circe born, great Comus, deep skilled in all his mother's witcheries, and here to every thirsty wanderer by sly enticements gives his baneful cup, with many murmurs mixed, whose pleasing poison the visage quite transforms of him that drinks, and the inglorious likeness of a beast fixes instead, unmolding reason's mintage, charactered in the face. This have I learnt, tending my flocks hard by the hilly crofts that brow this bottom glade, whence night by night he and his monstrous rout are heard to howl like stabled wolves or tigers at their prey, doing abhorred rites to Hecate in their obscured haunts of inmost bowers. Yet have they many baits and guileful spells to inveigle and invite the unwary sense of them that pass unweeting by the way, This evening late, by then the chewing flocks had ta'en their supper on the savory herb of knot grass dew besprent, and were in fold. I sat me down to watch upon a bank, with ivy canopied and interwove, with flaunting honeysuckle, and began, wrapped in a pleasing fit of melancholy, to meditate my rural minstrelsy, till fancy had her fill. But ere a close, the wonted roar was up amidst the woods, and filled the air with barbarous dissonance, at which I ceased and listened them a while, till an unusual stop of sudden silence gave respite to the drowsy frighted steeds, that draw the litter of close-curtained sleep. At last a soft and solemn breathing sound rose like a stream of rich distilled perfumes, and stole upon the air, that even silence was took ere she was aware, and wished she might deny her nature, and be never more still to be so displaced. I was all ear, and took in strains that might create a soul under the ribs of death. But, ere long too well I did perceive it was the voice of my most honored lady, your dear sister. Amazed I stood, harrowed with grief and fear, and poor hapless nightingale, thought I, how sweet thou sing'st, how near the deadly snare. Then down the lawns I ran with headlong haste, through paths and turnings often trod by day, till, guided by mine ear, I found the place where that damned wizard hid in sly disguise, for so by certain signs I knew, had met already, ere my best speed could prevent, the aidless innocent lady, his wished prey, who gently asked if he had seen such two, supposing him some neighbor villager. Longer I durst not stay, but soon I guessed ye were the two she meant. With that I sprung into swift flight, till I had found you here, but further know I not. O knights, O knight in shades, how are ye joined with hell in triple knot, against the unarmed weakness of one virgin alone and helpless? Is this the confidence you gave me, brother? Yes, and keep it still. Lean on it safely. Not a period shall be unsaid for me against the threats of malice or of sorcery, or that power which erring men call chance. This I hold firm. Virtue may be assailed, but never hurt. Surprised by unjust force, but not enthralled. Yea, even that which mischief meant most harm shall in the happy trial prove most glory. But evil on itself shall back recoil, and mix no more with goodness. When at last gathered like scum and settled to itself, it shall be in eternal restless change, self-fed, self-consumed. If this fail, the pillared firmament is rottenness, and earth's base built on stubble. But come, let's on. Against the opposing will and arm of heaven may never this sword be lifted up. For that damned magician, let him be girt with all the grisly legions that troop under the sooty flag of Archeon, harpies and hydras, or all the monstrous forms twixt Africa and Ind. I'll find him out, and force him to restore his Perseus back, or drag him by the curls to a foul death, cursed as his life. Alas, good thy venturous youth, I love thy courage yet, and bold emprise. But here thy sword can do thee little stead. Far other arms and other weapons must be those that quell the might of hellish charms. He with his bare wand can unthread thy joints, and crumble all thy sinews. Why, prithee, shepherd, how durst thou then thyself approach so near, as to make this relation? Care and utmost shifts, how to secure the lady from surprisal, brought to my mind a certain shepherd lad, of small regard to see to, yet well skilled in every virtuous plant and healing herb that spreads her verdant leaf,